Thank you, everyone, for joining us on our December 2024 OCHMIS user meeting. If you haven't already done so, please enter your name and your agency's name in the chat box so we can take attendance. Agenda today, we have HMIS participating agencies schedule. We have an audit reminder, best practices for ticket submission, custom field request and supplemental services form updates, reassigning case managers, data collection, private profile versus anonymized profile, release of information, LSA and SMP updates, HIC and sheltered pit preparation, the project performance report, the upcoming holidays, and then we'll leave time at the end for Q&A regarding the things that we're presenting today. And then we will stop the recording and go to office hours for any general questions that you may have. So first up is our HMIS participating agencies schedule. So this, I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but this was requested by a number of agencies that sort of wanted a heads-up display of what the HMIS schedule is for the year and what it looks like. So on the top portion where the stars are, those are the HUD required reports. And we are currently in those. So as you heard during the agenda, we are going through the SMP reports, the LSA, the HIC and sheltered pit are coming up as well. In the next section, we have the Orange County required reports. These are reports such as the project performance reports and data report cards that we run throughout the years. Next, we have Orange County requirements. These are the agency audits and the HMIS user recertification. And then finally is the HMIS lead meetings. And this is just heads up display of what when we have our user meetings and when we have our data and performance management meetings. So I'm going to stop sharing really quickly so I can give you a view of what where you can find this information. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. So we are currently on the OCHMIS website. And you'll find this information under HMIS policy and privacy forms. And what we're talking about again is the HMIS participating agency schedule. As you can see here, it's a bit more blown up so you can actually see the schedule. And so, like I said, it gives you a heads up display of when we're working on certain reports, when we're working on things such as the HIC and PIT, things like the project performance reports. As you can see, they're at certain points within the year. And then the audits and recertification as well. And then our user meeting and data and performance management meeting. So we are going to be providing these materials in our wrap up. So if you want to save this particular schedule to your computer so that you can be aware of what's coming up during the year, I highly suggest it. So let's go back to the slides.
Diana, I just wanted to note that we also added the direct link into the chat, so feel free to click on the link to review the schedule.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. So next up, we have our agency audits for the year. So we're finally in the last month for our agency audits. We want to thank all of the agencies again for participating and providing good feedback to our team. The final audit tickets have been created. If your agency is in the process of scheduling your audit, please be aware with the upcoming holidays, events, and reporting, it's important to provide a meeting date. We would like to complete all audits by the end of December, so it's very important that you do schedule these audits. For those agencies that may have questions in the chat that they didn't get an audit request, it's usually because your agency is newer, and so we will catch you in next year's 2025 agency audit. So I'll pause for a second if anyone has any questions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. Rachel?
Thank you, Diana. Diana, can you see the slide labeled Best Practices for Ticket Submission?
Yes.
Great, thank you. The HMIS team would like to share some best practices for submitting tickets to the HMIS team. Using these best practices can reduce the amount of time that it takes to resolve a ticket for users by reducing the need for back and forth communication. Please provide as much detail as possible regarding the issue that you are experiencing. If you are requesting assistance on a report, please provide the pathway, name of the report, and filters used. Once a ticket is created, please respond in that ticket thread so as not to create multiple tickets. This could result in the HMIS staff person that was already assisting not seeing the important updated information. When leaving a voicemail on the help desk line, please leave your full name, agency name, and a detailed message regarding the issue with a phone number you can be reached at. Next slide, please. Please note that the custom field request form now has the option for making changes to an existing field. This option can be used when you are wanting to add additional response options to a field. For example, you have an existing custom field, types of trees, and want to add willow to the response options. This is where you could indicate that. This will also come in handy if you are no longer needing a particular field to be collected. Next slide, please. When requesting an update to a field, you'll notice that we ask for the following. This is so that we can make sure that we are updating the correct field in all the locations that you are requesting that they be updated. Any applicable projects where the custom field is included, making sure that the project names are entered exactly as they appear in HMIS, a description of your request, and whether this is set to an existing custom field, to an active, or to update an existing custom field. Next slide, please. And the form questions are continued. The existing custom field type, the existing field location, select all that apply. Any field dependencies. Does your custom field depend on the answer to any other fields? And if yes, please give a brief description. Any additional information or comments?
Okay, we'll give everyone a few minutes or a minute to put any questions in the chat if there are any.
I have a question.
Arvin, good morning.
Good morning, Diana. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am. What's the difference between text and text box?
So text just refers to just a line that you're going to put in. versus text box is a larger field that you can add more text to. So it's the difference between just a little line and a big box that you can put information into.
Got it. Okay.
Hmm.
And
And could I also add a note?
Yes.
Yes, and thank you, Carmen, for that question. That's a great question. So text, as Diana mentioned, it's going to be a line and it is limited to how many characters. So it's 255 characters, while a text box will allow for additional notes up to 65,000 characters. So depending on the data that's being collected, you might want to determine if a text is appropriate or a text box so to allow for user to add more detail.
so um is it possible? I think I've asked this for another form. I don't remember which one it was now. I'll remember this because I'm visual. So to me, a text box is just that, a box versus text. But in terms of that limitation, it would be nice if that form, I don't know if the form has this kind of functionality that when you hover over these particular field types, you can put that information that you just shared with me in terms of limitations on a text versus a text box. I'm just throwing that out there. So is the form, I guess I should ask the question, do you have the ability to put more information on the form if you hover over something?
Yeah,
Um,
thank you, Carmen.
oh,
Thank you, Carmen. That's a really great feedback. Um, when I do the demo, I'll show that we do have a link on the form that you can click on, and it will take you to a screen that has a little bit more context about the different fields.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll wait until you do the demo then in case I have any other questions.
thank you, Carmen. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide.
Thank you, Diana. Do you see the screen form update supplemental services form?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Please note that the supplemental services form now has the option for making changes to existing services. This option can be used when you are wanting to add additional service items to an existing service or to set the service inactive. For example, you have an existing service called Supportive Services and want to add a new service item, Referral to Employment Development, to the response options. This is where you could indicate that. Next slide, please. When requesting an update to a service, you'll notice that we ask for the following. This is so that we can make sure that the HMIS team has all the information needed to support with your request. Existing service category name. Are you updating an existing service or requesting to set the existing service to inactive? New service item name and start date, and a comment section for additional information that you may want to include.
All right. So Elizabeth, did you want to do the demo?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, let me go ahead and stop sharing.
Confirm that you see our website.
Yes.
Thank you. So our forms are available under HMS Form and Documents, and when you hover over this option, you're going to see three additional options. Go ahead and navigate to HMS Data and Setup Forms, and from there you can click for agency/projects currently set up in HMS. Once you click there, that option you'll see this screen. And you'll see the two forms that Rachel went over, which is the custom field request form and supplemental service forms. As mentioned, this form has been updated so that agency admins can notify the HMS team if this is a new or an existing form. And if it's an existing form, you'll see that it populate questions for you to let us know what are the changes to these forms, or sorry, custom fields. And you can let us know if you're updating the existing form or setting it to inactive. So depending on what your request is, you can let us know by picking the options available. And thank you for your question, Carmen. We do have that option here to provide a little bit more context, also for new field as well. You'll see under the field list, there's an option to click here to get a little bit more description of each field option. And when you click that link, it's going to take you to our website, which gives us a little bit more context about each fields and the different functions that they have. Also, the location, you can also see when you're requesting for updates, if you're asking for an update on the profile, entry, or update, which is usually assessments, and the exit screen. For our service form, we please note it's important to also include the project name at the top of this form so we know which service is attached to that project. And we have this new field where you can let us know if it's an existing or new service. So you can pick from the drop down list. If it's a new service, you'll have the options to add to the new service. Or if it's an existing, again, you have the option to let us know if you're adding or updating or setting a service to inactive. So if you're setting it to inactive, we just need the date of when that service is no longer applicable to that project. And if you're just requesting to add a new service item, you will have the option to go ahead and let us know what service to add to that existing service category. Stop sharing, but wanted to pause to see if there's any questions. And thank you, Amy, for adding the links into the chat.
Okay, I don't think we have any questions, so we'll go ahead and move on. Hugo?
Thank you, Diana, and good morning, everyone. Today I'll be going over reassigning case managers. When HMIS users leave an agency, agency administrators should reassign all their active clients to another HMIS user. If HMIS users transfer agencies, their previous caseload will also transfer with them if not reassigned to another HMIS user. Agency administrators can reference the Reassigning Case Manager's knowledge base article for a step-by-step guide on this process. Next slide, please. And now I will be by demonstrating a demo for reassigning case managers.
Okay, you can go ahead and share, Hugo.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen right now? I should be on the training website.
Yes.
Great. So when you locate a client's profile, you want to switch over to the Programs tab. Once at the Programs tab, you will locate a program name and click on the edit icon to the left of the name. On the right-hand side of the page, you will see this green box with a list of information such as program type, program start date, assigned staff, and head of household. Under the assigned staff section, you can click on the edit icon and change the case manager for that client to whoever else is a user at that agency. For this example, I'll be picking Amy and I will unlist myself. Then you click on Save Changes and the assigned staff member for that client will change. Please take note of the fact that the assigned staff that populate depend on the agency that you are currently signed into. For this example, I am cited to the system role. So only users within the system will populate. Even if you are an agency administrator that has access to multiple agencies, please keep in mind about the specific agency access role that you are currently working under when going through this process.
Thank you, Hugo. I believe we have a question. Is there a way to do a mass switch for a caseworker for all active clients on the program instead of doing one by one? So unfortunately, there is no mass switch for the caseworkers, and you will have to go in individually one by one to move all of the active clients to another case manager. I have submitted that as a request to our vendor as an idea as a program update, but they have not gotten back to me regarding that. So it's one of those things that we asked for it, and hopefully at some point we'll get that update. So thank you for that question. Let me go ahead and share again. I believe there's another question. Give me 1 second.
I can read the question, Diana. Are
Okay.
program managers able to update case managers or only agency admins? So this is users are able to do it. It's not just the agency admin roles. So for best practice, if a staff is transitioning, go ahead and have the staff support with reassigning the clients to another case manager.
Thank you for that question. We'll go ahead and move on. Hugo?
Data collection disclosure. HMIS users are required to collect universal data elements, otherwise known as UDEs, about all clients they serve who participate in HMIS projects, regardless of funding source. HMIS users must take steps to ensure that data collection practices are easy for clients to understand by providing them with a copy of OC HMIS's privacy notice upon request. Clients have a right to privacy and can refuse to provide such information without being denied service. Client consent is not needed to ask for their information or to enter it into HMIS. Funders may ask for specific UDEs and request that they be entered into HMIS. HMIS users should note that collecting data and the use of disclosure of such data are two different things. Any use or disclosure of data not listed in an OC HMIS's privacy notice requires client consent.
Okay, we'll give it a minute for any questions. We have any questions? So next up is Amy.
Thank you, Diana. Over the next few slides, I will review how to handle a participant's HMIS profile when they refuse or revoke consent to sharing their information. Due to HMIS being a data sharing platform, participants should understand their right to refuse or revoke consent to sharing their information at any time. Participants who opt not to consent can still have their data entered into either a privatized or anonymized HMIS record. If a new participant does not consent to sharing their information, the record should be privatized. During profile creation, you will find the Release of Information field in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Set the permission status to No. The start date will automatically populate to the date of profile creation, and no end date is required. Then you'll go to the Consent Refused field and toggle the Consent Refused button and hit Save. The now private profile can only be viewed by the agency who created the record for historical information and data entry. Next slide, please. If an existing participant no longer consents to sharing their information, the record should be anonymized. To anonymize a record, upload a completed and signed copy of the client revocation of consent form to the participant's HMIS files. Copies are available from the OC HMIS website in English and Spanish. The agency administrator should then submit a ticket to the OC HMIS help desk with the participant's unique identifier, requesting the profile be anonymized. The OC HMIS team will remove the participant's name, date of birth, and social security number from the profile. Agencies currently working with the participant would continue to see and use the anonymized record as usual, but any new agencies who encounter the participant would need to create a separate privatized record. And you can refer to the knowledge base articles in the chat for further guidance on what to do when a participant refuses or revokes the consent to share their information. And you'll also find the client revocation of consent forms in English and Spanish. Next slide, please. Next, I will review the data entry process for adding release of information status for a participant's profile. It is important that Access Point staff review the consent to share protected personal information with the participants at intake or as needed. Release of information forms are available from the OC HMIS website in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. During profile creation, the ROI section is viewable on the top right corner of the screen under Release of Information. Select the appropriate permission status and ROI method of collection. For existing profiles, the ROI section of a profile can be accessed by selecting the Client Privacy button, aka the shield icon near the top right of the profile screen. If the ROI is missing from a profile, a yellow banner will appear with the Click Here prompt, and the Privacy and Release of Information screen will automatically appear. Next slide. From there, you're going to select the button Add Release of Information to add the participant's ROI information. The Release of Information pop-up windows appear with the following: permission, start date, end date, and documentation. For permission, select yes or no, depending on if the participant consents or denies their information being shared. For start date, you'll put the date that the participant signed the ROI if they consent. The end date will automatically populate to 7 years from the start date, and documentation will be the format used to store the ROI. Your ROI format options include electronic signature, attached PDF, verbal consent, and household. And please note, for electronic signature and attached PDF, there's a space to list minor children, and it must be signed by the head of household. Verbal consent is considered a temporary placeholder until electronic or PDF ROI is obtained. And household is a selection for minors whose head of household has signed the electronic or PDF ROI. And if you encounter a participant that already has an active electronic signature or PDF ROI, go ahead and upload the additional scanned versions to the Files tab of a participant's profile. And for further information about adding ROIs and updating ROI information in HMIS, you can go ahead and review the ROI KB that's been added to the chat. And I believe we also have the versions, the link to the OC HMIS website for the ROI form as well.
Thank you, Amy. We'll give it a little bit to see if there's any questions.
It looks like we may have one question in there from John, stating, can we still upload the file even if they refused? And it looks like, Elizabeth, you may have responded to them. Did you want to elaborate, Elizabeth?
Yeah, and John, feel free to provide a little bit more information. I just wanted to clarify, are you saying the client is refusing to consent to share their data?
Yes, so they signed the consent form, and I was told that we could still make an anonymous profile, and I did create one, but I wasn't sure if I should still upload the form for them and then just have it still anonymous. I didn't get a complete answer to that one because I had the profile and I didn't know if it was just going to be if I put it in HMIS to be deleted.
Okay, yeah, thank you for adding more information. We would recommend if you're an agency admin to also submit a ticket so we can further look into the profile. But if the client themselves is giving consent, that means they are providing consent to share their information. So then you can have a public profile and upload the ROI. It's when the client is sharing that they don't want to share their information that then you can set the profile to private. That means that only your agency can see that client profile.
Okay, perfect. Then so then I can still upload information. I just got to get a ticket in so then it could be adjusted.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please do send in a ticket so that we can further investigate and further discuss to collect more information to let you know what is the appropriate next steps.
Thank you so much.
I don't believe we have any further questions.
Diana, a question just came in.
Oh, okay.
When do we use the private feature when agency can only see the name? So a private profile would mean the client does not already have an existing record in HMS and that your agency is currently the only agency working with the client is when the profile can be set to private. When there's a client that has an existing profile and is already working with other agencies, we are unable to set the profile to private. So the steps would be to anonymize the profile, and our HMS team supports with anonymizing the profile and notify all the agencies that are actively working with that participant that they've requested, they've revoked their consent to share.
But we let you know that this is that client so that when you're looking at the anonymized profile, you know the client that you're still working with. Thank you everyone for your questions. And please feel free if your agency comes across a situation where you don't know the next step or you would like to further discuss the appropriate next step, whether it is anonymizing or setting the profile to private or the correct appropriate step for uploading release of information, please do feel free to reach out to our HMS team. We are happy to further discuss and investigate the situation to let your agency know the appropriate next steps. And then John, feel free if you want to add your question to the chat or feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so this one is I have a client in our shelter right now that needs to update their ROI to add a child because originally they did not have the child signed. Where if the agency that created it, how do we upload it even though they created it for them and didn't have the correct consent form?
To clarify, a different partner agency uploaded the release of information for this client, correct? And now you're working with the client and now they have a child that joined their household?
Yes, and on the consent form does not have the child.
Okay, yeah, there is an option you'll see right there of adding the ROI under the Files tab. So you can collect an updated ROI with the head of household consent. And since the child's a minor, they cannot sign, but you can have the child listed under the section that says minor. and the child's profile will be set to household.
Would they lose the original consent from the other agency?
No, it's just adding on to it's like an updated ROI.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know if I uploaded it, they would delete the original ROI.
Thank you for your question, and I'll also be adding um, add the file to the chat. And as mentioned, all of our information and materials that we go over will also be included in a recap.
Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. We can move on to our next topic. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Diana. So just wanted to provide a reminder about our LSA timeline. Thank you to all the agencies that are participating and supporting with data cleanup, as well as providing explanation for warning flags. So just wanted to give a quick update. We're around working on round 2 of warning flags. Our team with our community's effort have been able to clear out our error flags. So now we're focusing on cleaning up and finishing up our warning flags. So warning flags are data that is unlikely but could be possible. So we want to provide some explanation around that. So we're around the second round, and we're still aiming to plan to start submitting around January 6th. So the last push to get explanation in is during December. So thank you in advance for all the agencies and your effort in working with our team to provide those explanations. Diana, can I go to the next slide? And for this slide, just wanted to provide a quick overview of the topic we discussed during the LSA and SPM office hours. LSA and SPM, the reporting period overlaps each other. So the effort that each agency is putting into support with both data correction would overlap and support both HUD reports. So round 2 LSA warning flags, there are some pending corrections with the overlapping errors, and we're working with each agency to address those overlapping errors. The due date for corrections are December 20th. And with warning flags, we do need an explanation. So some of the common warning flags that we have are low utilization, and this could be affected by changes to bed inventory. So it's very important to review your agency bed inventory and make adjustment as needed if there has been changes over time. Longer than expected emergency shelter stay. This is looking at emergency shelter stay that is longer than 120 days. So we wanted to work with each agency and collect explanation on the reason for the long stay. And for projects that reported 0 households served during this reporting period, it's most likely due to that the project is not yet in operation. So we want to work with each agency to get an expected operation start date, and HUD's data standard notes that the operational start date is the day the first client is expected to be provided services or housing. And for system performance measure, SMP corrections are due the 6th. We noted that there are a few data errors around approximate date of this episode of homelessness started. So some dates that we know that stood out as errors are Dates that could have been placeholders, early start dates such as January 1st, in the 1900s. We noticed homeless start date before the client's date of birth. So those are errors we would want your agencies to review and support with making corrections. And we also noticed some dates where the homelessness started after the project start. So then it gave us a negative number. So those are some errors that kind of stood out, and we wanted your agencies to review and make those corrections. So LSA warning flags will be reaching out to you through the help desk tickets, and SMP and previous LSA overlapping enrollments errors. All those spreadsheet will also be uploaded and available in Dropbox. Just wanted to take a pause if there's any questions regarding LSA or SMP reporting our data corrections. Question about this report. This reporting has been, if the report has been sent out to agencies. We're working on sending out the round 2, so you should be seeing that by December 9th. We'll be reaching out to each agency admin once those reports are ready for your review. But the SMP was already sent out, so you should have your SMP spreadsheet already. Round 2 of LSA spreadsheet will be coming out shortly.
Just to confirm, the SPM would just be sent out once, or it was just sent out once, correct?
Yes, the SMP will only be sent out once.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I don't see any other questions coming in. Can we go to the next slide? Shelter pit preparation. So our HMS team wanted to support our community with preparing for the Hake and Shelter Pit reporting that will kick off in January. So for projects included in this report is emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing with the subtype housing with services, parent supportive housing, and other parent housing. So if your agency has a project that falls within that list, that you'll be included in the Hake and Shelter Pit reporting. We are scheduling office hours for next Wednesday, the 11th, and we're going to cover agency setup review dashboard. We'll be sending out your agency descriptor data, funding source, and bed inventory so that your agency can go ahead and review and ensure all that information is accurate, as that is the data we'll be using to send out your HIC data and provide some context around action items that you could start doing now to prepare for the HIC and Shelter Pit. And for our partners that use a comparable database, we'll also be sending out project descriptor and funding and bed inventory for your review. Out a newsletter early next week to provide more information about the office hour, but just wanted to note that the office hour link is already available on our website calendar. So please feel free to save that link to your calendar, but we'll also send out a newsletter as a reminder.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. We'll give it a few moments for any questions. We'll go ahead and move on. Michaela?
Good morning, everyone. The project performance report for transitional housing would be published on the OC HMIS website in the upcoming weeks. Current and past PPRs can be found at our website by navigating to reports and then project performance reports. Corrections for the emergency shelter PPR draft data will be uploaded into the Dropbox in the upcoming weeks. The project performance overview is a helpful document which provides important information regarding the PPRs, including the thresholds for each goal and our publishing schedule.
Get a few moments for any questions. Being on.
Holidays observed. The HMIS Help Desk will be closed on Monday, December 23rd through Wednesday, December 25th in observance for Christmas. We will also be closed Wednesday, January 1st in observance for New Year's. And we will be back in the office the following business days to assist you on Thursday, December 26th and Thursday, January 2nd.
So at this time, I wanted to open it up to everyone. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we covered during this meeting, please go ahead and unmute yourself or put them in the chat. If you haven't already done so, please enter your name, your agency's name in the chat box so we can take attendance. And then we'll give it a few minutes if anyone has any questions, and then we'll go ahead and move on to office hours after.
Diana, we do have a question. When is the 2025 HIC and PIT date? Thank you for your question. We're still currently working with the Office of Care Coordination to finalize and get that date. So when we have that, we'll also provide that to all of our agencies that are participating in the HIC and Shelter PIT reporting.
Hi, this is Nikki from PATH. I have a quick question. I wanted to know for reports in HMIS, if we would like to request a program manager to have access to certain reports, are we able to put in a ticket for that?
Elizabeth?
Oh,
Do you
I'm
want
sorry, Nikki, could you repeat your question? I think my audio went out.
Sure, no problem. I was wondering if we needed a program manager to have access to a specific report, will we put in a ticket for that? For example, under the agency management, there's a staff client data activity report that would be beneficial for some of the program managers. Would they be able to have access to reports by me, the agency administrator, putting in a ticket?
Yes, please submit a ticket so our team can further review and we will provide an update to you regarding your request. And I believe if you already have a ticket, thank you for submitting that. Our team is currently reviewing and we'll get back to you shortly if the ticket's already submitted.
Perfect. Thank you.
Not seen any questions. So thank you everyone for joining us today for our December 2024 HMIS user meeting. Our next user meeting is on January 8th. If you have any additional HMIS questions, you can go ahead and join us in office hours. But for those who do not have any questions, you can go ahead and hop off the meeting. Thank you, everyone.